This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Motorola Photon on Sprint. This is available now for $199, and this is one of their high-end phones. And it's quite a nice phone, and a large one too. It weighs 5.6 ounces, but it feels a bit heavier. It's a very solid phone, let's say. A 4.3-inch display. It's a large phone, just like the EVO is. And we take a look around. You can see it's got a soft touch back, which is nice. It doesn't show fingerprints, feels good in the hand. Pretty thick. Of course, it's got a WiMAX radio in here. It's got Sprint 3G, and it has GSM SIM card for world roaming. Will not work in the US, sorry, even if you get the SIM card slot unlocked. You've got volume controls here, a dedicated camera button, which is nice, headphone jack, power button, and this side you have your micro USB and your micro HDMI ports. The side here is kind of a smoky chrome color, and it does show fingerprints, but it cleans up nicely. And this is where you yank the back off, just one of those peel-off kind of backs. And kind of feels like you're going to break it, but you won't. Thin piece of plastic. There's your 1700 milliamp battery here, the SIM card, and this is where you would put a micro SD card. One is not included, but it does have 16 gigs of internal storage. And while we're looking at the back, you can see there's an 8 megapixel camera here with a dual LED flash. This can shoot 720p video. And we've got a speaker grill back here and a pop-out kickstand. HTC is not the only one with that. So you can prop it up on the desk, and you can see here it asks if you want to launch the widget clock or just go back to your home screen. And you can disable this feature if you want under display settings. So that's kind of handy if you want to kick back and watch some video. So the Photon runs Android Gingerbread 2.3.4, and that's a version that would theoretically be compatible with Google Talk video chat, but alas, it is not. So far we haven't seen a phone other than the Nexus that is compatible with Google Video Chat. You do get Quick on this though for video chat, and there's a front-facing camera here to that end. The quality is just okay on Quick. This has a dual-core NVIDIA 1 GHz CPU, Tegra 2, your standard for high-end Android phones now, and a gig of RAM. And it benchmarks very nicely in Quadrant. It gets 2717, which is one of the higher numbers we've seen for a dual-core handset running Android. It has Motorola software on here, though Motorola is not marketing it much. Referring to, you can see their stylized icons here and their launcher strip. And down here, this is your program launching button, and you can see you've got the web browser becomes one of their squared off icons. But it's not too intrusive. Other than that, they really haven't customized the software very much. You get the standard contacts, calendar, music player. You do get the option to use their unified messaging box, which is nice, to bring all your messages together inside of the messaging application, but otherwise it's pretty much business as usual. But since it is a Motorola phone, you do get support for adding a heck of a lot of different kinds of accounts. You can see you got Exchange Sync, regular email, which is POP3 and IMAP, Facebook, Flickr, Google, Last.fm, LinkedIn, MySpace, Orkut, Photobucket, Picasa, Twitter, Windows Live Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, and YouTube. Strangely, Sprint ID is also installed here. There are no packs installed by default, and I'm not a big fan of Sprint ID since I'm a power user. It's really geared more towards novice users who don't know what applications are available, and it downloads customized themed wallpapers for you and a bunch of apps based on your interests, say if you're a soccer mom or if you're into sports, that kind of thing. So it is there. You don't have to install it happily. There are a lot of Sprint services on board. You have the usual Sprint Zone, you have Sprint Worldwide to give you information about using it with GSM service. We've got Sprint Mobile Wallet, Sprint Music Plus, Sprint Radio, Sprint Movies and TV, and we'll look at Sprint Movies and TV in a moment. And we've got TeleNav GPS Navigator on here, as well as Google Maps and navigation too. We've also got social networking set up here. That's a part of MotoBlur, and again you can see you can add a variety of social networking accounts here, and it tries to integrate that into your phone too. In terms of MotoBlur widgets and software, you can see here's a social networking widget that would pull from whatever accounts that you set up. Also, likewise here's another one, so you can monitor more than one account. Social media account widget as well, for photos and videos and stuff like that. Weather widget, wireless controls right here. In terms of reception, this is above average. Motorola is really good at making phone radios, and in terms of both 3G service and 4G, this is doing better than any other phone we've reviewed recently on Sprint. You can see we've actually got a 4G signal, which isn't always easy for us inside a building since it's very high spectrum. And it's a pretty good signal here right now too, which is good. Sometimes, say with the EVO, we would get maybe 2 bars if we were lucky. in their current location. Outdoors it always does much better. And 3G, likewise, pretty good signal and good download speeds, although a little bit odd. It seems that upload speeds are faster than download speeds. We're averaging about 400K down and about 650K up when we're on 3G. One thing about the 4G radio is it's not turned on by default. You have to turn it on if you want to use that service. And if it loses signal, which does tend to happen because it's high spectrum and coverage can be a little bit spotty, you often have to tell it to manually rescan and reconnect to 4G. Battery life is usually not very good with WiMAX 4G phones, but the Motorola manages to do pretty well. And compared to most other WiMAX phones which have trouble making it past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, this guy can actually make it until you get home from work. Not bad. In terms of speeds that we're getting with the speedtest.net application, which is pretty much a de facto standard for measuring download speeds, you can see it varies a whole lot. When we were outdoors and we're getting a good signal from the tower, we got almost 8.6 megs down and almost a meg up. And then with a slightly weaker signal, about 2/3 according to the bars, we got 5.7 megs down and somewhere from 848K to 1.3 almost megs. And in our current location, though we have a lot of bars, I don't think we get as much throughput from the tower. It was 2.1 megs down and 81K up, go figure. These things do fluctuate. And then the lower speeds were on 3G network. Phone uses the standard Android dialer and with the access to the favorites tab, contacts, and all that stuff built in. And phone call quality is excellent on this. Really nice, full, loud and clear on both ends. Great voice phone. The speaker is also quite loud and clear too. Since this is Android Gingerbread, of course you have Adobe Flash, and Adobe Flash playback works pretty well. We're going to take a look at that. So now we're going to the YouTube site. Of course we're getting the mobile site, but we'll pick the desktop site so we can get full flash. And we are using Wi-Fi for this. And we'll use the browser and Flash Player to complete. So we are running in a 360p window right now. And now we've switched to full screen for 480p. That plays very well. Occasional out of sync, lip sync issues, but generally speaking, that's pretty good for a phone. Then we're going to take a look at the camera. Just press that button, you can launch it. And you can choose whether you want to enable geotagging. We're going to disable it right now. And this has a really weird interface. Thank goodness there's a dedicated camera button up here, because here's where your shutter button is up here. Instead of being a giant button usually right on the side, it's up here. And this has touch to focus, but not like you would expect. You actually have to drag the little box around, which is slightly strange. And then you can take your shot. So focus speeds are okay, as you saw. Moderately good for a phone. And picture image quality is decent with good light. It does have a dual LED flash, which helps with illumination for poorly lit scenes, but there is some noise, and the colors are a little bit muted, but 720p video really rocks on this. Phone also has a mobile hotspot feature. Obviously it has a GPS, Wi-Fi 802.11n, Bluetooth with full set of profiles for music, headsets, and the like. And it comes with Quick Office. It's the full version that lets you view, create, and edit MS Office documents. And next we're going to take a look at Sprint TV and movies. And we're in Sprint TV, Mobi, which is powered by Mobi TV like most of the carriers these days. And we'll check out ESPN Mobile.
Non-stop action leading up to this year's NFL season. Sal, what more can you tell us about what inside information on rookie?
And this is over Sprint's 3G network at the moment. You can't use this over Wi-Fi, go figure.
And training camp updates. With the season
You can hear the speaker is pretty good and loud and clear and full.
NFL
And the quality is not bad on this at all.
on ESPN.
Now, since this has a 1 GHz dual-core NVIDIA CPU with the graphics acceleration built in, I'm surprised there aren't any games preloaded, demo games. So we downloaded Air Attack HD to check out performance. Of course, the phone should be very capable, like all the dual-core Tegras. Not a superbly demanding game, but runs just fine. To try out 3D, we download the free Gun Brothers. Controls are fine. Frame rates are good. Definitely your typical excellent Tegra 2 experience. In terms of display, this has a 4.3-inch QHD 540 by 960 pixel display, so that's obviously higher resolution than the usual 800 by 480, and I think that's the sweet spot for a 4.3-inch display, because things just look a little too blown up and too large when they're just 800 by 480 on that size display. And it's a nice, sharp, bright, clear, typical Motorola-looking display. It's not IPS, it's not obviously Samsung Super AMOLED, but it's clear, it's sharp, it gets plenty bright enough. Another feature of the Motorola Photon 4G, a lot like the Atrix, this has the WebTop software installed, and that means you can plug this into the optional HD dock, and you can use this with an HDMI monitor and Motorola's Bluetooth keyboard, and use it as sort of a desktop replacement of sorts. Certainly handy if you want to do presentations, what have you. It pipes the audio out and it saves your WebTop state. That means any bookmarks and web browsing history that you have. So you get the web browser and some basic features with that. And we will be covering that separately in another video. So that's the Motorola Photon 4G. It's available now on Sprint for $199 with contract. Definitely it's a phone we can recommend, both for its excellent radio performance for 3G, 4G, great voice quality, fast performance, solid build quality, and the optional WebTop functionality. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review.